Coming up next, an interview with one of the greatest rock vocalists ever on a song that changed everything. After joining one of the mightiest rock bands in the world and having back-to-back #1 albums, this band needed to evolve with the changing times. Singer, he had lyrics to a song in his head for months, but his co-writer just wasn't on board. One night he was playing video games and he heard this guitar virtuoso playing something on the piano, actually. He walked in and started singing his lyrics over the piano figure, and a game-changing song was born. It had a legendary music video to go along with it, but the singer hated it until he didn't. Up next, how a song from 1983 ruled radio a decade after it was conceived. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you love the rock and roll era, talking the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even the 50s sometimes, click the subscribe button below. For even more content and to get behind the scenes footage and full interviews, check us out on Patreon. The link is below for that. Now in 1991, Van Halen released For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, their third album with Sammy Hagar at the helm, and their first album of the 90s. Famed producer Ted Templeman came back in to produce, something that he hadn't done with the band since 1984. Van Halen had Foreigner's Mick Jones and Don Landy behind the console for 86's 5150, and then Landy again for 88's OU812, of course. Ted was a welcome addition. After their first producer, Andy Johns, had some issues. Johns had quite a history, having worked with everybody from the Stones to Zeppelin, but Templeman helped get it finished. So Van Halen was coming off 2 straight #1 albums, since Sammy Hagar had come aboard, and continued to dominate the concert circuit with sold-out shows across the world, really. On 1988's OU812, the band had 2 big hits on the radio, as well as on MTV with the top 5 hit When It's Love. And then the bluesy classic, Finish What You Started.
Come on, baby, finish what you started.
That just missed the top 10 at number 13. The first single off the album, the heaviest of the 3, was Black and Blue. That went to number 34. And then Feel So Good was the other top 40 hit from the record.
Feel so good, so good, woo!
And all those songs were about really love and sex. When Eddie and Sammy reconvened to prepare for the next album, they were looking to do something a little bit different. A different kind of truth, if you will. Sorry, I had to. The album title For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge actually came from Sammy, who was thinking about the subject of censorship, with more and more albums at the time getting stickered with the parental advisory warning. The Red Rocker wanted to use a vulgarity as the title to challenge the status quo, and was going all in with that. He wanted to name the record literally the F word. The F word. Straight up. But as time went on, he decided to change course from that very bold idea. He still did it in a slightly different way. A friend of his, champion boxer Ray Boom Boom Mancini, told him the F word was an acronym for the phrase For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, which is actually inaccurate, as is the urban legend that it was an acronym for the phrase fornicating under the consent of the king, from the Middle Ages. But anyway, doesn't really matter. The album title was more about an answer to the censorship of the time than any urban legend. And this video is on Van Halen. It's not on the F word. So moving along. Band members got together in the spring of 1990 to start work on this record. This album would be a return to the focus of their hard rock origins, with most of the songs driven by Eddie's guitar, with the synthesizer being pushed aside for an actual piano sound. As the band got deeper into the year and into 91, they could sense that the musical landscape was changing, and with the Seattle scene, it was becoming more and more prevalent, and college rock's emergence, from the underground like REM and so on and so forth. They knew it was time to evolve. On Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, Eddie stopped using his trademark Marshall Super Lead. He used it here and there, but switched to his 1989 Soldano SLO 100. He also used a prototype for what would eventually become the PV 5150 series, and would actually be released in conjunction with the release of the record. The album contains several amazing songs in the Van Halen catalog. including the mind-blowing Eddie Van Halen Bulldozer Pound Cake that featured the sound of the power drill, which Eddie revved up with, which he held to the pickups of his guitar. Top of the World was another classic Van Halen anthem that has been used at innumerable sporting events. It featured a riff that was familiar to Van Halen fans who recognized it as a riff during the ending of their 1984 number one smash Jump. The song 316 was a beautiful instrumental and inspired by the March 16th birthday of Eddie's son Wolfgang, even though the song predates his birth. In my opinion, though, the highlight of the album was a song that Eddie had been messing around with for almost a decade. The brilliant piano part that Eddie played actually dates back to as far as 1983. Eddie said at one time, and I'm going to quote him, "It was before I wrote Jump. It didn't come out because nobody wanted anything to do with it." Actually, a very early version of the melody was used in the Cameron Crowe Penn movie The Wildlife, which was the supposed sequel to Fast Times at Ridgemont High. The Wildlife was scored by Eddie Van Halen.
Hey, Jim!
Hey, Tony, what's up?
The score also featured a music bed in a composition called Out the Window that was later used in another iconic film. I mean, Eddie had better throwaway tracks than a lot of artists have as their centerpiece songs. Now, another interesting fact that a lot of people don't know, before Van Halen hired Sammy to replace Diamond Dave, Eddie was thinking about doing an album that would feature many different guest singers, singers that Eddie had a great respect for. And he always thought of having Joe Cocker sing something to that piano line from Right Now. More on that in a second. Sammy said the lyrics he wrote for Right Now were the best he'd ever written in his career. He actually had the lyrics in his head for over a month, and he's trying to get Eddie, on board with these lyrics, but he was just not hearing it. He didn't really care for him. Maybe he just wasn't listening. But one night, when Sammy and some of the other band members were playing video games, he heard Eddie in an adjacent room working on a piano melody. Sammy said he suddenly realized that they were writing the same song. So he walked into the room and he started singing his words over Eddie's music. Sammy would go on to say unequivocally that he was tired of writing cheap sex songs. Eddie and I wanted to get serious and talk about world issues. That's his quote. Right Now, it's definitely one of the greatest Hagar-era songs, one of the greatest Van Halen songs. Eddie's piano just gets under your skin and brings the soul to life. This is definitely not a song you want to listen to when you're relaxing, laying in bed, or trying to wind down. It electrifies the senses. It motivates, it uplifts, it makes you want to attack life. It's a game-changer song. I remember the first time I heard it, it ignited something deep within my psyche. I got to tell Sammy about that about a month ago. I remember I actually heard the lyrics wrong, though. I thought Sammy was saying right now, hey, there's no tomorrow. He's actually saying it's your tomorrow. But like many of you who've heard a song a certain way and now can't unhear it, I'll always hear and sing there's no tomorrow. What it meant to me then, and it really still means to me, is the urgency of experiencing the fullness of life, the importance of seizing the day, to be here now, to live every moment with passion. As the song says, make future plans, don't dream about yesterday. Come on, turn this thing around right now. Turn this thing around. Right now. Catch a magic moment. Do it right here and now. It means everything. It's a message that the world needs right now. Sorry, didn't even mean to say that. I mean, with all the doom and gloom and the divisiveness, it's a beautiful reminder that we're all capable of greatness. of reaching our true potential, of rising above the cruelty and negativity of the environment that is around us. As is said in the chorus of the song, get the message right now. It means everything. Eddie's song, It's Eternal, and the music video, it took it to even higher levels of understanding and realization. Of course, it was also used for Crystal Pepsi. If you can remember that, we're going to cover that in a second. Now, I spoke to Sammy about writing the song with Eddie, and this is what he said about it. As we go into this little portion of the interview, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. I wear these exclusively. Zenni, I say it all the time, they have incredible variety. You can actually design your own. You can download their easy-to-use app, choose your style, your shape, your color, and then you just put in your prescription online. You can even see how you look before you buy. Click on the link below to do it. Here's Sammy. Right Now is a song, it kills, man. It just kills. Tell me about Right Now.
Right Now, the interesting thing about that is that once again, was not that big a hit for us, but it was a huge video, and it became a classic. And, it was such a big, giant leap for Van Halen lyrically, for all of us. We really stepped into a higher consciousness thing that was commercially acceptable, because there are other, like Love Walks In was high conscious, but it wasn't commercially successful. It never was even a single. Dreams didn't. It
actually was. It went to number 22.
Oh yeah, but not a big single.
Right. Yeah.
And same with Dreams. Dreams wasn't a big single.
Right.
But it was inspiring. But Right Now is a big single. I mean, it was a big. It made a big splash.
You won the MTV Video Music Awards.
All that. Yeah. So what made that song so acceptable was the video. A lot of people were disappointed in that song, the rockers, the older Van Halen fans that were tolerating me, some of them. I mean, I brought my fans in there, so we were fine. We were as big as you get. But there was always people on the fence. Hey, we don't like it when he sings some love songs. We don't like when Sammy, gets too spiritual and too philosophical. But Right Now we pushed the envelope on that, man. That was a real deal. And then to be the video and be the big thing. Rolling Stone started giving us credit and saying, we're not just a party band. And producers started talking to us we used to ask producers to produce our records that would say, no, we don't do party bands. We'd always ask the hip guys, and they didn't want to do us, because even with the great musicianship and as big as we were, we used to get dogged because we were a party band. But Right Now changed all that. Everybody said, yeah, this band's serious now. Well, now we're talking. So it was really weird how that came about. But I was laying on the beach and I was reading this stuff, this philosophical, spiritual, not philosophical, a Zen book, and I was trying to meditate because I'm so wired, and I was getting really, my marriage was kind of falling apart, and I was getting, it was winding me up. So I was trying to relax myself. So I was, just reading about it, and I knew about it, but I was trying to take it up since on the beach. And I was writing those lyrics, man. Right now, it's your tomorrow. I was trying to tell myself, it's all about the here and now. Get into it, buddy. Get into it. I was beating myself up about it. And Eddie's writing this piano song that it actually was old, I think. I think it was an old piano part he had that he kept playing me. And I just said, I don't hear it. Eddie kept saying it was Joe Cocker. Think, feeling all right. I'm going, I don't hear it. I didn't hear it. Yeah. I still don't hear it that way. One day I was playing pinball machine, and during a break on that album, it's the last thing we recorded, last thing we wrote. And Eddie's sitting there playing the piano, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, holy crap, there it is. I went in and started singing it. It fit right to it. Boom.
When I first heard it, I always thought you were saying there's no tomorrow. It's your tomorrow.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter, though, because it works. I mean, the song, I saw an old interview from back in the 90s where Sylvester Stallone said that he wished he could have used that song for one of the Rockies. Because it just had that.
It has that.
It has that.
That and Dreams.
Yeah.
Uplifting.
For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge was released on June 18th, 1991, right before grunge was about to blow sky high. And of course, at first, critics gave the album their usual negative reception. I mean, most rock critics never gave Van Halen any credit in those days. Remember, it prompted their first frontman, Diamond Dave, to famously say, most rock critics like Elvis Costello because they look like Elvis Costello. Touche, my friend. The first single released from the album was the all-powerful Pound Cake, as I said. The song didn't cross over to the Hot 100, but it went to number 1 on the rock charts. After that, several other songs went to radio, including Top of the World, which actually broke into the top 40 on the pop charts, number 27. It also hit number 1 on the rock charts. Ditto Runaround on the rock charts as well. So 3 number 1s in a row. When Right Now was released as a single, the album had been out for almost 8 months, and they'd already spent 3 weeks at number 1. His third straight number 1 album with Van Halen. Third straight overall. I mean, at this point, it seemed like the album cycle was closing down, and in comes Right Now. I mean, the song was so much bigger than its number 55 peak on the Hot 100. It woke up the world to its incredible message. It boosted the album into new territory. I mean, mostly from the iconic video, which later won 3 MTV Video Music Awards, including Video of the Year, and it did all of this post-Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit, which had by that time wiped many hard rock and metal bands from the scene, if not the public conscious. Not a timeless band like Van Halen, though. The video, directed by Mark Fensky, showed events and social issues that were occurring at that time. The band also had a lot of fun with it. It referenced them several times. It used big block letters to display statements around the title of the song. I talked to Sammy about the fact that he wasn't a fan of the video in the beginning. He was afraid that people they wouldn't hear the lyrics or the message. They might be too busy reading the screen. And I can see where he might come with that. In fact, he's kind of folding his arms and he slams the door. There's some things in the video to look for. He said he didn't get it until he did. Actually, record man Mo Austin of Warner Brothers called Sammy and wisely predicted that it would be the biggest video of the band's career. And Mo Austin was a great record man. He was close because, Jump is more popular all these years later. But alas, there's even a part in the video, like I said, where Sammy's so pissed off, you can tell, stands away from the microphone, he refuses to sing, and then he slams the dressing room door. Like I said, though, eventually Sammy came to truly appreciate the video and respect it from some of the feedback he got. Right Now was later used in several Crystal Pepsi commercials. Now, Eddie only agreed to license the song to PepsiCo because, as he would say at the time, he knew that if he turned him down, they'd likely hire studio musicians and just record a cover. The band received a lot of criticism from fans because of this, whereas no one would ever say a word. When Madonna or Michael Jackson did the same thing, Van Halen was held to a higher standard. Here are my final thoughts on the song. It would have been so cool if after this song was a hit, Eddie would have recorded a version with the late Joe Cocker. How cool would that have been? Joe would have sounded lights out. Maybe they could have done a mashup of Right Now and Feeling All Right. That blazing guitar and that gritty voice gets me jacked up just thinking about it. No doubt they probably already jammed it a few times in rock and roll heaven. I think this is one of the greatest songs of all time. But you know what? A lot of snobs, music snobs, they don't go for it. Music's absolutely subjective. I can hear a song and think it's sensational, utterly compelling. You may hear it and think just the opposite. Having said that, this song, it's just undeniable. It's a game changer. Maybe I'm just too optimistic for my own good. But I swear, if you really listen to this inspired and meaningful composition, if you truly let this song's message prevail in your life, it'll make a difference. Right now's greatest message, its lasting message, is in its urgency. We live in a time where urgency is a vital part of our daily autonomy. We have to learn to live in the moment, to make sure that every second counts. That's what this song reminds us of. Leave us a comment about this song and Eddie and Sammy and Van Halen below. What do you remember about this song? What do you remember about Crystal Pepsi? Do you think they sold out? I think Eddie had a great point. Let's have a great discussion. Where does this rank in the all-time songs? I still think Dreams is better. Let us know. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe below. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth.